Getting set for Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight here in Florida. Ryan Rishaug alongside Chris Johnston. So Kris Knoblauch at multiple times through these playoffs, there were things he didn't quite like with his team, CJ. He did a good job of figuring out which lever to pull, which button to push, how to get different results. So his challenge is to try and do the same thing here tonight. Quick rundown on what we're expecting. Cody Ceci, healthy scratched for the first time in his career as an Edmonton Oiler, is out. Vincent Desharnais is in. Up front, we believe Sam Carrick potentially could be coming in, and it could be Corey Perry coming out of the lineup. That's more of a game-time decision. Bottom line, Kris Knoblauch was in this place, CJ, where it's not that his team played terrible, but they lost. So to do nothing would seem a little odd. He's got to figure out something to do here, and it looks like, some tweaks.
Well, and especially after making a change after winning the last round, right?
Yeah.
After Game 6 win over Dallas, he reunites Ceci and Darnell Nurse at the time. And so I like this. I really like that you get a coach who, still very new in his NHL career as a head man, but, has the confidence to make these kind of moves. I think it sends a positive message to the dressing room. And something you pointed out to me when we were chatting off air, this is what it's supposed to look like, right? I mean, you build a team that gets to the Stanley Cup Final. You don't do it with just 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. I mean, the best teams have that kind of depth. Give their coaches, A, decision to make each and every night with the lineup, and B, give their coach an option if he wants to switch something up. So, I don't know if these specific changes will work the way Knoblauch wants, but I like the spirit of what's behind the decision and the fact he's willing to make it.
Just talking about Desharnais specifically, he came out of that Dallas series, it was a little bit faster, but at the time he came out, CJ, you'll remember, their penalty kill was fantastic, and Desharnais was killing more penalties than anybody. He was on the ice as much as anybody on the penalty kill. Knoblauch plucked him from the lineup, and the penalty kill kept on rolling. That was a bold decision at the time. He's going back into a series here that's going to be more physical than what it was during the Dallas series, so it makes sense from that standpoint. But Philip Broberg, the youngster, was another bold decision that he made, bringing him in. It's one thing to make calls, it's another thing to make calls and have most of them largely working out, and he's kind of had that touch. A lot of them have worked out.
Sure, and look, there's a benefit here too. I mean, these are fast physical games. I mean, Desharnais now has not, got some time for his body to heal. You know what I mean? Obviously, his style is that he's got to come in and make himself a force physically, and so you're injecting some new life, some new energy when you make these decisions as well. And so, I do think it's worked too. Look at even the goaltending decision in the Vancouver series. I mean, I know Pickard was a great goaltender when he played for the Oilers this year, but at that time, removing Stuart Skinner, looked like a bold call for those of us sitting in Toronto watching the games in Edmonton. So, it's true of who he is, and I do think it keeps everyone involved too. I mean, if you're doing a skate with the extras here today, there's a chance you're going to play Game 3 or 4 or 5, and so I do think it's keeps everyone ready that way too.
Not that it matters at all right now, but the underlying story on Vincent Desharnais is he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. There were some negotiations leading into the playoffs, didn't get to where they wanted it to get to. Both sides decided to just sit tight and wait and talk after. So Desharnais' playoff performance, his future in Edmonton is definitely a discussion, and how he does here, it'll be interesting to see how that affects things moving forward. We chatted with him today. He's obviously pretty excited to be back in. We could see a shift here on the second line. This makes some sense. Evander Kane, we know. He came out before the playoffs started and said he's got the sports hernia, which was odd to me that he just flat out told us, I got a sports hernia. And his results have been up and down through the playoffs, CJ. Clearly he's been dealing with this, but it appears as though if he is in tonight, based on line rushes this morning, he'll be moved down the lineup a little bit. His effectiveness hasn't been where it normally is, and so we could see Adam Henrique inserted onto Leon Draisaitl's line alongside Dylan Holloway. So for Kane, he was answering questions like, where's the line between you're too hurt to help your team versus you want to play? Some interesting dynamics on that second line and with Kane. Well,
yeah, and he said, look, it's a Stanley Cup Final. Lots of people are dealing with things, which, of course, is true. And every player in this situation is going to want to play. I think for Kane, they're just looking for him to score one big goal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they'd love him to score 5 big goals, but I think reasonably speaking, this is a team, we know who the top guys are, but you're looking just for a little bit of, output from someone down the lineup, getting some easier matchups perhaps, although if he's on the second line, it won't be quite the same, but you're looking for that breakthrough. And so, unfortunately, it's been a tough playoffs for Evander, given what he can, but, he's not pulling himself out of the lineup. It doesn't seem like his coach is at this point either.
And he's one of those guys, when he's healthy from a physical standpoint, I mean, he can really help shift the tide. So, you know, how physical he can be with what he's dealing with right now, we're not sure. Darnell Nurse, by the way, also, you know, a guy who, him and Ceci got put together last game, back together, and they were on the ice for a couple of goals against. Certainly one of them was their fault. You could argue whether the other one was or not, but he did admit today, like, he feels physically he can get engaged a little bit sooner. And try and impact the game a little bit sooner. But CJ, Darnell Nurse is one of those players, and he showed it last series, when he is on his game, he is tailor-made for the kind of hockey that's going to be played here tonight.
I would think so. I mean, look, the Panthers, you got to kind of fight fire with fire a little bit. I mean, they like to engage physically. I don't think Edmonton's a team that backs down from that. But, you know, when you look at Darnell Nurse, you're bringing Darnay in on the back end. I mean, you want to be inflicting some punishment along the walls when you're in those board battles. And so, you know, I see that as an area where he can contribute. You know, everyone's going to focus on that big minus number beside his stat line. But, you know, it's not as though it's all been bad for him. I think it's easy sometimes we go with the extremes in the playoffs, right? The greatest player ever to the player having the worst playoff series ever. The truth is somewhere usually in the middle. And for Nurse, I mean, he can't worry about that. He can't get rid of 15 minuses in one game. He's just got to go help his team win tonight. And I think you're right. That the physical side of things is certainly an area where he can, you know, make the Panthers feel it. And, you know, just try to get playing offense, and good things will happen for the Oilers.
When he plays just a little bit angry, whether it's at us in the media or the fans or whoever, when he plays a little bit angry, his game goes to the next level, and I'm sure the Oilers would love to see that from big number 25 tonight. One of the things that happens at the Stanley Cup Final every year, they roll the top prospects through. Macklin, Celebrini, and company, they were here today. And he had met Connor McDavid before, but he had an opportunity, him and the other prospects, to have a quick chat with Connor McDavid today. CJ, you were there for some of that. It's always a neat moment when the next one meets the current one.
Yeah, and Connor really gave those kids a memory. You know, Connor really engaged with them. There's 4 prospects there, asked them where they're from, where they played this year. You know, mentioned, oh, Denver, you know, you guys won the NCAA championship this year. Like, and, you know, even told a story from when he was at the Combine, you know, way back in 2015 before he was drafted. So, you know, I think pretty special for, obviously, just to get a chance to be behind the scenes at the Stanley Cup Final. You know, they're wide-eyed looking around the dressing room. But then to meet Connor McDavid and that he gave them that much time, I thought was really pretty cool. And it's a full circle moment. I mean, there's 10 guys in this series that came here as a top prospect at one point or another before their draft years. And obviously Connor McDavid had that chance in the Chicago-Tampa series once upon a time. So life comes at you fast, and it won't be so long maybe before Macklin Celebrini's playing in one of these games that we're covering.
Saying hi to the next one after him. When he met Connor McDavid before, it was during the regular season. He was a little more clean-shaven. I think he was a little taken aback. You know, McDavid right now, the beard is giant. He's the chin busted up. So Celebrini was talking about how, like, they're deep into a playoff run here, and it definitely looks a little bit different. Did a one-on-one with Macklin Celebrini. Should be available on tsn.ca as well. Those youngsters and the rest of us probably in for a show here tonight in Game 2.